back when, there used to be, the only hockey around was behind the church hall next to the Catholic church. There was 3 teams I can remember. One was called the Shamrocks, the Red Devils, and the Wolves. We were the Wolves. So that's where it kind of started.
There was a Pee Wee All-Star team picked. Graham was coach, Graham Eisner. And so we got together then. We did good. We went to PEI on the championships.
When it came to midget, that's where everything kind of came together. So the advantage for like Don and myself, we had a great winger, Bobby McDonald, with that line, is that we played together so long, we knew where one another was, and Don had quite a shot. You know, he could put the puck in the net, and he was a good playmaker as well.
Don was the finisher. He liked to score. And he played pretty much the whole game, but he didn't shy away from the rough stuff. But he could score. He was our scorer basically.
We played from the time we were in Pee Wee. I was chosen for that rep team, and then I got to know the boys well. And then by the time we hit midget and had 6 or so years of playing together, when we hit midget, it just worked. Everything just kind of meshed at that time, and you just kind of knew where they were going to be, and they knew where I was going to be, and I never worried about anybody jumping on my back. The boys had my back, and I had theirs, so it was just, it was good. It was really good.
Well, it was amazing. It was the first thing is, for most of the players, it was the first time on a plane, including myself, to get there, and it was gracious city of Oshawa that hosted our town. Everything, they picked us up, billed us out, and it was all brand new cars, take us to the rink, and we were fed well, and it was amazing. There was a lot of players that played in that played later in the NHL. One was the Rat, Kenny Linsman. I remember him in the hallway because he was yappy back then. Yeah, it was inspiring for all of us to go there and play at that level, and the hockey was second to none.
When we went to junior, we played first few years in junior together for the East Hants, and then after East Hants folded, we went our separate ways. Basically, I went to Halifax, Don went to Cole Harbour, and John ended up in Truro. I'll tell you one thing, it was better to play with them than against them.
Don's competitiveness was at a way higher level. He hated to lose. Everything was win to him. And if he was playing against somebody, he would say, "I'm better than you." That was his compete level. And I remember at a young age, even at practices, say at the midget level, he would put weights on his wrists and ankles. Nobody did, and it would probably be a couple pounds each on his wrists and skates. Nobody else did that, just because he wanted to be in better shape or shoot the puck harder, and that was where he was with the game. And Don, even in junior hockey, was. I know there's video clips where he would take the goaltender out, and you know what that happens after that, and that would be several times.
Well, the first time I met Don was in the corner of the old East Hants Arena, when all of a sudden I could feel this elbow or hand or fist in the back of my head pushing my face into the mesh that was at the back of the rink. Every time I turned around, Don was in my face or on my back, and probably halfway through the game I realized that there wasn't just one, there was 2 of them. He had a twin brother to play for the team, so both of them were doing the same thing to me. So the next year, East Hants had folded, and Don had come to play for Cole Harbour, and I was very happy to see him at our training camp, because that meant I didn't have to play against him anymore. But he was going to be an integral part of our team, and I didn't mind playing third fiddle center behind Moochie Friesen and Don Garden. We had probably one of the best teams. Well, we actually won the league that year, and Don was a very integral part of that. But it was a very, very good league. I always say to people, if you took the 3 teams in Halifax, Cole Harbour, and Dartmouth back in those days, and you took the best 6 or 7 players off of those 3 teams, you'd have one hell of a good major junior hockey team. It's just that the major junior wasn't down here at that time. But the talent was. I was a former NHL scout. From 2006 to 2015, I worked for the Nashville Predators for 6 years, and I worked for Phoenix Coyotes for 3 years. And so we would tick boxes off on players. right? And Don ticked a lot of boxes. He ticked a lot of boxes. He could put up points. He had really good hockey sense. He was strong defensively. And, of course, he was a physical hockey player.
He coached at all levels. From junior, he started with the junior B team, junior A, and then he came back up through the ranks. And that's before, and he had no kids at that time. So he just enjoyed the game. In a lot of cases, he would pick kids up and take them to the game. And he did a lot of things, volunteers, on top of this in the community where he would help kids out financially and other things, and no one knew that. He wouldn't talk about it. He was just one of those guys.
Well, the Gardens have been a big name in sports in East Hants. I can't ever remember when they weren't. I guess it was right after my first wife passed away. And Don got a hold of me, and he at that time was coaching the Pee Wee team. And they were hosting the provincials in the area. And I remember Don phoned to me and asked me if I'd like to come and help him with the team. So I thought, well, that's a good thing to keep me busy. So I went in the room. One of the first things I remember is that I was watching the players come in, and this little fella came in with all the gear and goalie. And he wasn't very big at the time. And I went to Don, I said, my God, Don, that goalie's pretty small. He said, Colin, don't worry, he'll be the best player on the team. He was right.
My first memory of Don would have been in 1999. He asked me to play underage in Pee Wee AAA. So he approached my parents. We had a lot of back and forth conversations. I was a pretty quiet kid back then. And I was a little nervous at the time. I was in grade 6 and I would have been playing with grade 8s at the time. He certainly showed a lot of faith in me and certainly built a lot of confidence in my game right off the get-go. Right from the first day of tryouts, I remember him making it clear to the team that we were going to be in the Pee Wee AAA Championships. We were going to host it. Don was a leader through and through, without a doubt, and he wanted to get the best out of every single player. Every single practice that he showed up, he made sure he had a plan, and the goal at the end of the day was always to win that Pee Wee AAA Championship here.
He was someone that people wanted to respect because he got the best out of his players. Young men would go through the wall for Don Garden. Again, he was tough. He demanded a lot of his players, but at the same time, he treated them like young adults. It wasn't a top-down approach from what I remember when I would talk to people. Don would have fun with the guys, he would push them, but at the same time he would respect them and treat them one-on-one like an adult. And I think that's, at that age, when you think about those formative years, Bantam AAA hockey, kids getting ready for midget AAA, those are kind of those formative years for young men. And I think Don, we could go anywhere in the community today and people who were coached under him would have good things to say.
He looked after his players really well. And the real talent ones, Don was a huge part of them going on and playing in the Q or playing in Major Junior or wherever it might be. He was really dedicated to the players that he had. Trevor Ettinger was a great example of a fellow that Don really promoted, and Trevor did really well. And like I say, Andrew Carver, another great talent. It just kept going. And if he seen talent, he helped promote it. But he didn't do it at the cost of all the other players on the team. And that's what I liked about him.
He was a rare breed in our game. And like I said, he didn't have to coach East Hants Pee Wee AAA. He could have been coaching a Q hockey team somewhere, wherever he wanted to be. He didn't have to coach. But you know what? His smile was as big as a kid's smile when he coached that level hockey.
I don't know, he was one of a kind. I had a lot of years with him, and we were very successful with the teams that we had. And one thing about Don, he was just as good a coach as he was hockey player. And he was a good hockey player.
30 years ago, Don knocked on my door in my home. And at that point, I was the president of East Hants Minor Hockey. And the year before that, actually, I had to call him because he played an illegal hockey player. So I made the call and did my little rant as president. And and I was president of East Hants Minor Hockey. And so he, after I gave him a little rant, he said, "Who in the hell do you think you are?" And I said, "Well, actually, I'm your boss." Well, he didn't take that well. And So when he knocked, a year later, things kind of calmed down, and we kind of calmed our conversation down on the phone. It was a little loud for the first few minutes. The next year, for him to knock on my door and see if I was interested in coaching with him at the Pee Wee level, I was quite shocked. And the scary part of it is that this time my opinion of him was rough and tough, right? A little blunt and stuff like that. So I remember I said, "Yeah, I'll get back to you." And he, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Oh, I'll get back to you." And so I made a call to my brother Colin, which is Colin actually coached right at the time. I said, "Okay, give me the truth." And he said, so I told him what the offer was on the table for me, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to tell you right now, if you want a great experience, say yes." And so I did. And Don and I became very close friends very fast. And I started seeing the other side of him that a lot of people didn't see, or a lot of people he didn't want them to see. He felt that image couldn't be out there. And so I used to say, "Come on, Don, show him your heart, show him your heart." And I can't say what actually he said, but it was not nice.
When the concept came up about starting the Hall of Fame and the Sport Heritage Society generally, Kendall was my first call, but Don was the second. And, that was partly because I knew Don was involved in the community through sport. It was partly because I think Kendall had a good idea that Don would be perfect for helping to drive this initiative. And he was so supportive. Right from day one, he said, "This is a great idea." I think he understood the vision of what we were chasing, as a group, and he was a founding driver. Whether it was going and collecting advertisements for the program, whether or not it was doing the research with the group that does all that foundational research to make sure that we get every bit of information so we can collect and document that. He did it all, and he was passionate about this because Don was a couple things. He was a community guy. At heart, Don was a community guy, but he was a sport guy, and he believed in East Hants. He loved East Hants, and he saw this as a great way to be able to promote our community. You grow up in a small community like East Hants, there's just certain names that start to come true as a young person about knowing these people as community leaders. And Don was one of those people that he was almost bigger than life. You knew about Don Garden even if you necessarily hadn't met him. And when his name came up, people talked about it with such level of respect and reverence.
Don certainly set the tone for any kind of volunteer work that I've started to do in my career. I now have 3 kids in minor hockey. Without Don as a mentor, I don't think that I would have been as good of a coach as I am today.
Don was inspired by Jack. I've been inspired by Don. My hope is that some younger kid here in the community might be inspired by Cody Blois and that they'll take on the mantle, whether it's in sport or community.
For me, I think Don, great hockey player, good guy, but just a better person. I would say over the last, even in the past couple of years, he would visit me at the drugstore, and he didn't need anything. He just was coming in to talk, just to check to see how I was doing. He's just that kind of guy, just an all-around good guy.
You would just get random calls from Don, and it wasn't with an agenda, didn't need anything, he was just checking in. But that's the type of guy that Don Garden was. He cared deeply about other people. He had this kind of, again, that sarcastic, joking, kind of outward-facing personality. But when you were able to peel back some of the layers of the onion, he was a softie, I think, at heart.
Having the opportunity to become best friends with Don, I found out that he had a massive heart. And I had the opportunity to meet that person. And anyone who has been involved with him, and he's seen some of it, I was fortunate enough to see wide open. And he was an amazing guy to have for a friend.
He loved to tease. He was a bit of a hellion at times, another way to describe it, but he was one of the best hellions I've ever known in my life. And if every community had a Don Garden, they would be some fortunate.
To the entire Garden family, heartfelt congratulations on Don's induction tonight into the East Hants Sport Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. And I think most importantly, it's about ensuring that Don's legacy, his contribution to community, is never forgotten, because he was an absolute pillar. He was a good friend to me, and to Josh, to the entire family, congratulations. We love Don, and we'll never forget him.
2025 East Hants Sport Hall of Fame inductee, Don Garden.